Welcome back to another edition of the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling. I am Sean Meyers, joined by a triumphantly returning co-host. His name is Justin Lowery. Justin, thanks for taking the time. I had some technical bugs to work out, but I think we are good to go here on a beautiful June evening. Didn't have a chance to talk to you last week, and I know we have a lot of stuff to get into, including a new segment in which I'm going to put you through a trivia contest and see how well you know your professional wrestling. But before we get into the things that happened over the last week, I did quickly want to get your thoughts because we were not able to have you on following the Double or Nothing show. Just very quickly, in a minute or so, your reaction to that event, because I know you did make a last-minute decision to order the show and was able to take the whole thing in.
Yes, I thought it was a success. I thought there were some minor glitches, which to be expected with the first show. But all in all, I think it was a success for the company. It seems they got a decent buy rate. Everything I read, everybody's pretty happy. Seems success. Commentary was a little shoddy for me. I think that's something that needs to improve. Hopefully it will.
And Jim Ross is a legend, but at this point in his career, it seems like maybe his best days are well behind him.
Well, they seemed a little unprepared. I don't know. Like, even when they cut to them, they were like reading off notes, and they were like not ready for certain cues. I mean, maybe that's a first show. They got to work out some kinks between them. But all in all, I enjoyed it.
What was the high point for you?
Oh boy. I guess you have to go with the main event, the ending, the surprise appearance of the man formerly known as Dean Ambrose.
Yes, Jon Moxley. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw this. He won a championship in New Japan overnight for us.
Yeah, United States, their heavyweight champion, their U.S. title over there, beating C.J. Parker.
Juice,
of,
yes.
NXT fame. If people that don't know what New Japan, he went over there. That's pretty cool. I mean, I think this is showing current WWE superstars that might be thinking about leaving that it's okay to leave. There is life outside WWE, and it could be better for you.
So one thing that I want to get started on, Justin, I think I made the point last week, and I know I've kind of told you outside of the confines of the show, that I really thought that All Elite is a similar type of structure, similar type of product, and probably more of a true competitor to NXT than it is to WWE's main roster. The shows are just so different. But I think All Elite and NXT have a lot of similarities. And we saw a pretty good comparison because a Double or Nothing was followed last weekend by NXT Takeover 25. They celebrated it as some anniversary, but it's not like it's the 25th year of it. It's, about the 5th or 6th.
Takeover.
Yes.
Yeah.
It didn't really feel any different than the rest. Actually, I thought there was slightly less buzz for this show just because of the timing, because it wasn't at a big-time venue, wasn't linked to a major WWE pay-per-view weekend as well. But I think that the consensus is the show delivered again. I know you had a chance to watch this as well, maybe not live, but you caught it at least mostly that night or the next day, as did I. Your thoughts on NXT TakeOver 25?
Great. All takeovers are great. I mean, I said on the show, I think that's the standard in wrestling today is NXT takeovers. And comparing All Elite to an NXT takeover, I think is good for All Elite. To me, that's my favorite thing to watch in wrestling right now is a takeover. It's a simple formula: 5 matches, all given a considerable amount of time.
Yeah, I think like the shortest matches, you're probably getting 12 minutes for the shortest matches, maybe
12 to 15. Yeah, at the absolute shortest. It looks perfect. There's not any horrible comedy skits backstage to kill momentum. All the matches, ahead of time what's going to be on the card. You don't get something 2 days before, like, tune in for a pre-show, like, junk like that. I love it. I absolutely love it. I know, we talked about the main event briefly. It was more my style main event than it was your, favorite.
Well, so here's, and I want to talk about that. You're talking about Adam Cole and Johnny Gargano, and notable because these guys right around 2 months ago had maybe the best NXT match ever. Some people would say that. I probably would put it in the top 3.
It's up there.
It was incredible, and it led to Johnny Gargano winning the championship, and that was a really cool moment. That sort of felt like a Sami Zayn winning the title in NXT moment. Years of work that went into it. But I thought that match was terrific. It was best out of 3 falls. I was there live. I saw the atmosphere. It was also WrestleMania weekend, so maybe I'm partial towards that one. The rematch, I thought it just went, it was a little over the top, and here's why I say that. Don't get me wrong, the action was great, but there's 2 things that sort of made it almost farcical to me, and I've made the same complaints about the Young Bucks and guys like that, so I have to be consistent with it. One, it almost seemed like their idea of, we got to top the prior match, we're going to do even more ridiculous spots, even more false finishes, and we're going to have each guy kick out of everything possible, including finishing moves 3 or 4 times. And then the second part is, there were some devastating moves that they completely no-sold. And I'm not saying, like, get back up in, like, 2 seconds. I'm saying, like, we're completely unfazed and hit their own big move out of it. The problem I have with that is, if you are big into wrestling logic when it comes to storylines and WWE not having continuity, you kind of want to see logic across the board, and that really defies logic when they do stuff like that, doesn't it? I know, again, it's entertaining and you accept that, but to me, they could have a great match without going overboard in those regards.
Yeah, I mean, I see your point. I mean, I think it's just different of taste or opinion. You know, I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. For me, yeah, I like logical storytelling, but when it comes to in-ring action, I don't mind a little bit more disbelief because there's such great athletes doing such amazing things that it's hard enough to get caught up in it. You're like, oh, okay, that's going to be it. You know, I like false finishes.
I think false finishes are fine as long as, again, you don't overdo it. And I think that the one in New York, that was like their WrestleMania main event, right? That's their equivalent.
Yeah.
You can do those type of things there, but it didn't sort of feel like they just basically tried to one-up that match?
I think they felt the pressure because it was a rematch. They want to one-up what they did. It gets hard.
Instead of kicking out of 3, what's Adam Cole's move, the kill shot or whatever it's called, the knee. Instead of kicking out of 3 of them this time, Johnny kicks out of 4. You know what I mean? That's like what it felt like to me.
I mean, but if you notice, the crowd was eating it up, though.
Right.
You know,
and I feel like the crowd, that type of crowd, is the same as the All Elite Wrestling crowd at this point.
And 2, I mean, I don't know how these matches go in if they plan all this out. Or is it like laid out like a semi-plan and then they just feed off the crowd? Like mid-match they start calling spots like, hey, let's do this again. The crowd's into it.
Yeah, I think that's mostly. They know specific sequences that they want to do. They know the finish. They know the approximate time length. But the other things they kind of sort out in the midst.
And then there would have been a call between those 2 guys in the ring. Like, the crowd's eating this up. Let's do it. And that's what they went with, which, I mean, you can't blame them. The crowd loved it.
So the particular spot that I mentioned to you is Gargano hits a reverse hurricanrana on Cole. And I'm going to be honest, that move makes me because it looks like, not just in this match, you see it a lot in WWE now. We've seen that move done frequently. Guys just land on their head. So to me, in real life, that could be a very serious injury. So in wrestling story purposes, you need to really sell that. Cole, who's a very small, diminutively built guy. It's not like he's, Braun Strowman immediately pops up. So if that move doesn't hurt him, why theoretically would it ever hurt anyone? That's the point that I'm bringing up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess too, and I agree with you. I mean, I remember the sequence, and when it happened, and I watched it myself, I kind of chuckled because I was like, wow, that was, I guess the only thing is you could say, adrenaline popped up. He gave his knee, and then he laid on the mat.
Right. I think Nigel McGuinness actually tried to make that point.
Right. I think that's as a
that's a big stretch, though.
Right. It is. But I guess if you're trying to stretch logic here,
right,
that's you trying to sell that. I mean, if I got dropped on my head like that, I'd be laying there probably with a broken neck. But you have to stretch. It's wrestling. You have to stretch logic. I mean. It is what it is. I mean, I like it. I mean, I like the Young Bucks.
Do you see that being? Do you understand Vince McMahon's side of why he wouldn't want that on the main roster?
I guess.
Again, I think they could have a great match that goes 30 minutes, and maybe just instead of 8 or 10 combined finishers, maybe hit 3 or 4, and you sell everything.
Maybe more illogical wrestling or more illogical booking logic storyline.
I think it should all be streamlined. It all, you know what I mean? If you have one lapse.
Because I would assume All Elite Wrestling is probably going to be more basic storylines, maybe more stretch the logic in the matches. I mean, remember ECW? They used tables and chairs galore, and you could hit someone in the head 10 times with a chair and they would still kick out.
Right, it makes it hard. It's like, well, what should finish a match at this point? And I get that big match guys are going to kick out of a lot more stuff because it's a big moment.
Right, you just got to wear down your opponent.
With several reverse hurricanranas.
Yes.
Let's talk about the women's match because to me, while the match was okay, Shayna Baszler and Io Shirai, I wasn't super into it, and I haven't been into women in NXT nearly as much since the Big Four moved on. And that's been a while. We're talking like 3+ years. Now, Asuka did great, but, what were her finest moments? Her against Ember Moon, maybe, I would say.
Bayley. Well, her and Bayley, I guess, her match with Bayley.
I didn't really like that, to be honest.
I guess that would be her biggest match.
But I'm talking after Bayley moved on. Asuka was good. Now it's been Shayna Baszler. And it doesn't feel the same, and I don't know if it's because Shayna's so dominant, but for everyone saying Io Shirai might be the best female wrestler in the world, there's been 3 or 4 consecutive takeovers where I feel like the least excitement has been around the women's match. Do you see it the same way?
Yeah, well, I mean, NXT women's, they're struggling a little bit. I mean, the talent is nowhere near what it was at one time. I don't think it ever will be. There's no way with those 4 girls, plus Alexa Bliss down there, and Carmella was down there at the time. Like, it was too good. I don't think you're ever going to get that good again. I think Shayna Baszler, I don't like her. I don't think she doesn't interest me. I think a lot of that is because she's the champ, and maybe her matches are a little, blah. She's no Ronda Rousey. So you're not getting that effect, and you can only do so much with her. And then she consistently wins.
That's why I'm like, come on, just have her lose and move her to the main roster at this point.
I would guess, with the way the ending of that match was, Io Shirai is going to get a rematch, and then I would think that
hardcore match or something like that.
SummerSlam, like NXT right before SummerSlam, and then maybe finally they can move on. I hope.
Do you think that this women's division, maybe it won't touch what it was before, but will it get a lot better if there's a new champion?
I think it get better. I don't know if they'll be touched before. I mean, now, we'll see how All Elite, starting affects women's wrestling. Because before, clear as day, WWE was the best. I mean, can they steal 1 or 2 girls now that, NXT would love? I mean, I read today that Sasha Banks is going to sit out her contract until it expires,
which is an exceedingly long time, isn't it?
I don't know. I have no idea. So then she can then go to All Elite. I mean, that would be a big get for them.
But and I understand anything but Vince. I get that, but is she going to have even a third of the talent on that roster to work with?
What's the roster going to look like? I mean, they're signing a lot of Japanese women, which I think a lot of Japanese women wrestlers are pretty damn good. Vince doesn't really showcase them. I mean, Japanese wrestlers in general. So I'm actually looking forward, and I'm not going to act like I know who all these Japanese women wrestlers are, because I don't. But I always find them very athletic. They're pretty good high flyers, so that entertains me. So, I might see these women, not really know who they are. It might take me a month to really get to know them and then really enjoy them. But, they're on the right path. I think they have some right combinations. I mean, Awesome Kong has just a woman name. I get, she's old, but, most fans know who she was. There's certain girls out there that I think they should go after.
Tessa Blanchard's the big one, obviously. But
she's signed with, Impact. You got to get her away. I don't know why she's with Impact. I mean, you could be so much better. I mean, there are women. What's her? Who? She just left Ring of Honor. The old Emma.
Yeah. Tennille Dashwood.
Yeah, I couldn't think of her name. Like, I'm pretty sure she's a free agent, not signed anywhere. That would be a
She's
decent pickup.
putting a lot of good stuff on Instagram, at least in the meantime.
Well,
So.
she's gorgeous. Yeah, so, hey.
Anything else that stood out about NXT? I thought, again, top to bottom, always a solid show. It wasn't one of my favorites by any means. I really thought that the one in New York before WrestleMania was special, but I also go back years and years. And
Tyler Breeze can still put on a great match, and it just shows how many talented wrestlers is employed by that company.
I said this before. Vince makes you forget how good some people are.
Right, like some people might have forgot how good he was. Like, he was really damn good at NXT. He was putting on great matches. Got called up. We were all excited, and Vince just within weeks decided, nope, not you. And I wonder if this is the start of a couple guys going back down to NXT. I would like to see Apollo Crews go back down, because there was a guy that I thought was just getting started in NXT, got caught up way too early, and I thought there was more that he could have done there. Yeah.
Final thought for me, I thought the tag ladder match was really exciting, but it was also terrifying to me because they did spots that I thought the men's Money in the Bank ladder match was terrific, and they executed every spot perfectly. This one, it just seemed like they didn't even care what happened to their bodies. Kyle O'Reilly just took some brutal, scary falls. I don't know if Bobby Fish got hurt or not. He had his arm in a sling, but I hope and pray those guys are okay, and you don't want to see something bad happen, because you go back long enough to remember Joey Mercury and what happened to him in a ladder match. That stuff can happen when you seem to kind of, just throw your bodies around and not carefully plan out everything. So while it was very entertaining, it's just hold my breath type of moment.
I mean, I thought in the men's Money in the Bank match, Finn took some insane spots.
I agree, but I feel like they did them absolutely perfectly. They landed exactly how. Now, you could say, even if you land it perfectly, it's still going to hurt, but I feel like in the NXT one, guys were just, falling off ladders haphazardly. And
I think that those are, guys that are hungry. They're out there. I mean, if you're going way back to, the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian, those TLC matches, they did some insane stuff and put their bodies on the line. They were young, they were hungry, they wanted to get noticed. And I think that's what you were seeing, from those guys in that match.
And shout out to the Street Profits. I don't think a year ago we would have expected them to be holding gold, but I think at this point pretty deserved. Yes. So, Justin, I have teased to you and at the beginning of the show that I have a fun little game for you, because I think what has happened over the past 2 months is the main roster has become such a weird blend of Raw and SmackDown, where you said you think the brand split's going to be over by the time the fall rolls around.
Right.
They have the shuffle after. Well, first off, let's go back to January. They bring up guys and don't assign them to shows. Then after WrestleMania, they bring up more guys. Or it wasn't even before. It was before WrestleMania. They bring up Black and Ricochet. Don't assign them to shows. Then we have the shakeup, and guys appear on Raw, and then they appear on SmackDown, and it's like, I'm not really following this. And then they do the wild card rule. It's supposed to be 4 guys. If you watch SmackDown this week, it's literally as many guys as they want. It was probably a dozen when you included the Lumberjacks.
Yeah.
It's just a mess. They can't follow their own rules. Now, I get that because those guys were all going together over to Saudi Arabia, I believe, so they figured they're going to be here anyway. Might as well throw them in something. But still, you make a rule, at least stick to it for more than 2 weeks. So, now, the game I have for you, Justin, is I am going to name superstars, men and women, not necessarily main eventers, but there's some bigger names, and then there's some people that aren't used that much. I want you to tell me what show they are listed on, because you go to WWE.com, you can go Raw, SmackDown, NXT, 205 Live. So I will name the superstar. You tell me Raw or SmackDown. First, you ready?
Yeah.
First person, Lars Sullivan.
SmackDown.
That is correct. The next person, the one-man band, Heath Slater.
Raw.
You are 2 for 2, Justin. The next person, Chad Gable.
SmackDown.
Yes. 3 for 3. All right. Sarah Logan.
Raw.
Yes. I like that you're actually like thinking these ones through, because I think you were going to say SmackDown and then you realized.
Yeah, but Liv's on SmackDown.
Yes. Well, not really, but theoretically.
Well, she hasn't been seen, yeah.
Okay. This one should be easy. We'll see if it's easy for you. The Miz.
The Miz is on Raw.
Yes. I'm not going to lie, on Raw, when he was out there, I did not even remember.
Yeah, because he was drafted to Raw.
Jinder Mahal.
SmackDown.
Justin, you are still perfect. I am shocked so far at your success.
I'm probably not proving the point you were trying to make here.
Well, we're going to get a little bit more difficult, I think. Mickie James, just in the news because she suffered an injury.
Yeah, SmackDown.
Yes. Next up, Mojo Rawley.
Raw.
Yes. Justin, I think you are 8 of 8 at this point. So even if you miss the last couple, you deserve a pat on the back. You've mentioned him already, Apollo Crews.
He's SmackDown.
You are 9 of 9. The final one, Justin. Another person we just talked about, Tyler Breeze.
He's now in NXT.
Justin Lowery has gone 10 of 10 on who he play for. Justin, that was impressive because I'm not going to lie, like this week watching WWE, I literally had to say to my, and I watch every minute every week. You know, I watch every second of SmackDown, every second of Raw. This past week, there was 3 or 4 times where I said, I don't even know what show this guy's on. I really do not know. So when I went on the roster today and I looked at SmackDown, there's so many people on SmackDown that I said, I didn't even know that they were on there. And I left some other people off, like Shelton Benjamin, also on SmackDown. You wouldn't have known it because the last time you saw him on TV, he was wrestling Seth Rollins on Raw before WrestleMania. You maybe have not proved my point. Nonetheless, I feel like the main roster has just been just a cluster in recent weeks. And that's sort of carried over again this past week. When I had Tommy on the spot on a week ago in your place, we talked about how it almost seemed like Vince went the complete opposite end when everyone was saying, oh, Raw, how is it going to respond to Double or Nothing, this great show by All Elite Wrestling? I feel like Vince went out of his way to have less wrestling, to make it more about entertainment, you know, whether it be promos or just endless vignettes or backstage segments. Well, that really showed up again this week. Do you get the feeling that he's almost going out of his way to make this less wrestling and more entertainment in response over the last couple weeks?
I think he's just sticking to his guns. I think that's what Vince wants, and I think we all know Vince is stubborn. He's going to be like, I'm going to tell you what you're going to like. You're going to like it and accept it. He doesn't listen to the fans. I mean, sometimes they do. Let's be real. Kofi's a champion because of fan support. You know, Becky got her shot because of fan support, you know, stuff like that. So things do happen. But when it comes to certain things that he really wants, he's going to have it his way. He doesn't like the word wrestling. He doesn't own a wrestling company. He'll tell you he owns a sports entertainment company.
Which, again, World Wrestling Entertainment. It's a contradiction in itself.
Well, yes, but wrestling's like a dirty word to him.
As is hospital.
Yes, you know, he doesn't want to be called wrestlers. They have to be called superstars. You know, that gets annoying. You could be a wrestler and still be an entertainer. There's nothing wrong with that. It just, I don't know why he thinks wrestling's so dirty. That's how his family made their money. You know, including, you know, started with his dad and then him. Like, he made money off of wrestling. He made it more entertainment, but...
Right, and if you go back 20 years, and I would, you know, probably be able to watch a Raw or maybe even a SmackDown and tell you, but I feel like there was a lot of, like, 2 or 3 minute matches. They kept things very short, and it was more about characters and stuff like that. So I understand that was a recipe when things were hot, but that recipe isn't working now. And you have Cesaro and Ricochet, and I feel like that's Vince saying, look, we're giving you wrestling because those two guys go out there and have killer matches each week. But that's it. That's the exception.
But here's the problem with that is, who won last week? Cesaro? Oh, Ricochet's winning this week. Oh, look, okay, who won last week? Ricochet? Cesaro's winning this week. I mean, yeah, great matches, but the booking's horrible.
So speaking of booking, they have focused so much on this Super Showdown, and I initially thought maybe we'll talk about Super Showdown from the get-go this week, but I don't want to do that. Vince McMahon wants us to do that, though, right? That's the plan, is that all these storylines, and they put a lot of effort in these storylines.
This is bigger than WrestleMania. We should have dedicated the last 2 weeks to this.
I'm going to be honest, Justin. Some of the feuds feel like that they've made more of an effort with Super Showdown than they did building towards WrestleMania.
Well, let me speak on this, because look, I think there's 10 matches. I don't even know all the matches on the card. I don't care. I'm not going to watch a second of it.
What about the 50-man Battle Royal? People are thinking it's a Royal Rumble. It's actually a Battle Royal. Imagine 50 guys in the ring to start.
That's stupid. Just stupid. You know what's also stupid? Hold on, I'm going to go on a little rant. You know what also stupid? Goldberg versus The Undertaker. Okay, I say this time and time again, and someone has yet to explain to me. So please tweet me, whatever you need to do. Please let me know why you guys still get excited to see The Undertaker and get all giddy and get goosebumpy. And I see you on Twitter, oh my God, it's Taker. Oh, like, my God, he's like in his 50s. He can't move. His walks to the ring are longer than his matches. Goldberg couldn't really have a passable match 25 years ago, okay? At least he was a character. I mean, if this was 1998, okay, yeah, this is a big deal. This is 2019. This match is going to be a joke. It's going to be, 2-3 minutes? They're each going to hit a power move, and then the Saudi Arabia crowd's going to lose their, nuts, and they're going to act like this was the greatest wrestling match of all time. I do not care. It's going to be horrible. Nobody wants to see this. Apparently people do, but I sure as shit don't. I don't understand it.
Well,
Explain to me.
Here's the crazy thing. I know, you're fired up. Here's the crazy thing. I think the match will be a dud, and most people will realize that. That being said, if you saw the end of Smackdown, you can't deny that the fans were going nuts for it. And this is why there's such conflicting views of what this company should be. Because if you're Vince McMahon, and let's understand that Vince's perception is very warped, you see that reaction that Goldberg got when he came out, that the Taker got. The fans were chanting, holy you-know-what, when The Undertaker came out to interrupt Goldberg. Those are the casual main roster fans that he's worried about. NXT fans, they're going to pop for a great wrestling match even if they don't know the guys. That's what all elite fans, I think, are very similar to. But for Vince, it's these big names, these larger-than-life people. That's what wins. And when he gets a reaction like that, he's thinking, I'm a genius. This is exactly what I wanted to hear. And it is partially on the fans. And I don't blame them for showing respect. But you need to show more respect when we go to Smackdown, Justin, in December. It's crickets for the 205 Live match. Yeah. They're putting on incredible matches every week. But the fans, the main roster, casual fans don't care. So those guys don't get any opportunity. And you can't blame the fans per se, but I think that's why Vince is having such a hard time coming to grips with what the hardcore fans want.
Yeah. I don't get it. I really don't. I've tried to get it because I did watch SmackDown. I called my dad up because my dad was a huge Goldberg fan. And
I actually thought Goldberg was better than expected, by the way.
Well, I said, hey, turn on USA. He turns it on. Why? He goes, oh, it's Goldberg. What the hell is he doing? Like, can he still wrestle? And I'm like, no, not really. But, he's getting paid a buttload of money to go to Saudi Arabia and do like a 2-minute thing with The Undertaker. He goes, The Undertaker? Can he even walk? I go, kind of. Honestly, I watched it and the crowd was into it and people on Twitter are like, oh, I got chills. And maybe if these guys were in their prime, that would be huge. But I don't understand it. I don't understand. I don't care about Hunter and
Randy.
Orton.
Right.
At least that they're a little newer, but I've seen it. It was 10 years ago, 12 years ago. Hunter's last match did not leave me wanting to see him wrestle again. I don't care. And why should I care about Taker versus Goldberg, except that it's The Undertaker and Bill Goldberg?
Well, right. They never gave either guy a reason for this feud. They just said, this is a match that's happening.
Right. So, I mean, like it because it's two icons. Okay, but they're old. They can't wrestle anymore. I mean, we saw Bill Goldberg was with Brock Lesnar. It was just, 3 matches that probably totaled 6 or 7 minutes total of 3 matches. I mean,
right.
who actually think this is worth anything? I would not pay money to see this match.
Well, this is a situation where the build and the promos and stuff is going to definitely overshadow the match, and I think those guys understand that, and they probably don't care because, to your point, they're getting a paycheck and they're getting good reactions. But when you look at Raw and SmackDown this week, you see the Undertaker close out Raw, and he was cut short, which is another issue. But you see him close out Raw, you see Goldberg close out SmackDown, and you see probably over 45 minutes of Shane McMahon. How are you going to build to the future when that's how you're presenting your weekly television?
You're not. You know, it's funny. They all, when you go on the network and you hear, like, you see stories about WCW and their downfall, not building towards anybody, keeping all these old people, blah, blah, blah. That's what Vince is kind of doing right now. I mean, I guess, like, there's some younger guys. They're being showcased.
Yeah, I mean, you got like Seth Rollins would be the big one, of course.
They're not stars. Like, Seth Rollins isn't a star. You know, there's something missing there. Great wrestler, but there's something.
Well, it's weird because, like, you remember when Roman beat The Undertaker? That was really supposed to elevate him.
Right.
It didn't.
Well, I think, one, it hurt that The Undertaker came back. If that was Undertaker's final match retirement, he would always hold his hat on that. Like, okay.
Like Baron Corbin is now doing.
Right. But people didn't want Roman the way he was booked. Listen,
that would have been cool for a heel to get that victory over The Undertaker, right?
Yeah, right. But you know what? He should have went full on heel then. Just ride with it, stick it to the fans, blah,
right.
blah, blah. You know.
Then it might have meant something.
And here's the thing. You know, Roman came back from leukemia, and he had 100% support from everybody. And we're a couple months removed from that, and that's already gone. And honestly,
he's still getting cheers, but it's not like a good face. It's not like a main event face. It's like a slightly positive, and especially against Shane.
Well, I was going to say, I think a lot of it with the stupid feud. Nobody cares. Like, the feud's killing him. I mean, and why Vince? There always has to be a McMahon on TV, always upping a wrestler. At no point should, like, a 43-year-old Shane McMahon be getting an...
Oh, he's older than that. I think he's almost 50.
Okay, well, but there's no point of him getting an upper hand on what's supposed to be your main guy, right?
And he already beat The Miz. He won that feud.
It's mind-boggling, Sean. I don't... And this is why I hardly watch WWE anymore. Like, I went 10 for 10 there with naming wrestlers, but I probably watched a total of an hour and a half of wrestling this week between Raw and SmackDown. More SmackDown than Raw.
So, a couple other things that I really wanted to quickly touch on. Lacey Evans and Charlotte was about as ugly as a match as you could have ever imagined between those two. I made the argument maybe it's the worst that Charlotte has ever had on the main roster. Some people said her and Carmella had some stinkers. Thankfully, I don't remember those vividly enough to judge it. The women's division NXT isn't the same. The main roster women's division feels like it's in a big-time funk. I don't know the way out of it, but between that and then admittedly a very good women's match on SmackDown, but a kind of baffling decision to have Alexa Bliss of Raw win it in her return match, and we know she's had injury issues, so it's kind of tough to really have faith in her being able to go forward. I don't know what they're doing because you look at SmackDown. Ember Moon's not on TV. Asuka and Kairi Sane have been off the last couple of weeks. You have women that can, step up to the plate. It just doesn't seem like right now they have any idea how to book the women on the main roster. And the luster from the past year leading up to that WrestleMania main event, because I truly believe they did want to make the women as big of a deal as possible heading into that main event, it's all gone now. Ronda's gone, Sasha Banks is gone, and it just seems like things don't matter nearly as much as they did even 3 months ago.
No, they know how to book. Well, what? Alexa Bliss is acting like a face on Raw. Then the next day on SmackDown, she's a heel?
No, I think she's going to turn on Nikki on Raw, but you have to at least say if she's pretending to be a face on Raw, we have to do the same.
Doesn't she pretend to be a face on SmackDown? And I don't know what to do.
It just comes down to her and whatever mood she's in based on her coffee consumption, I think.
Right, yeah. Get her some coffee. I don't know. They don't know what they're doing. They have Charlotte. She's everywhere, Raw and SmackDown.
We can agree, thankfully, she didn't win that match, right?
Oh, God, thank God. We need a little break from Charlotte. Like, Roman gets a bad rap. Charlotte's a great wrestler, but just give us a little bit of a break, please.
So the women aren't going to be, or at least as of right now, the women aren't going to be at Super Showdown. There's actually reports that Natalya and Alexa Bliss are going over there. I don't know what that's going to lead to. We'll, figure it out, I guess, within the next 48 hours or so. And by the way, I was cracking up that Goldberg kept saying Friday night because it's not Friday night for anyone over here.
Friday afternoon.
I mean, I guess he was thinking in Saudi Arabia time.
Friday morning on the West Coast.
So, speaking of Super Showdown, that's been the big thing. It's been Dolph Ziggler and Kofi, and that's been just... I think the guys have done good, but they have so, overdone that with the video packages and the 30 minutes of back and forth. And then we have Lesnar and Rollins, and that came to a head on Monday with Lesnar claiming he was going to cash in, and then the fake out never happened. False advertising, they do that quite a bit. Then, of course, the Legends match that we talked about, Orton against Triple H. And then, of course, the biggest of them all, the true WrestleMania main event between Undertaker and Goldberg. Here's how I look at the Saudi Arabia show. Everyone in the U.S. hates this show. And probably everyone in all of North America really hates this show. The English hate this show because they can never get these big events. They all go to Saudi Arabia. How many people, worldwide, really enjoy this? Maybe, in Asia or whatever, it's a big deal. I can't speak to that. But at least North America and England, which represents a large majority of the fan base, I think this show is like a joke.
I would assume maybe parts of Africa and Asia. I would assume Europeans and Americans don't really give a damn.
So here, it comes across in America as a big time negative PR move, right? We know what's happened.
I would assume most in the world, because most people in the world know Saudi Arabia is not a very just country in their treatment of people and everything.
And especially in America, there's ample reason to not do shows and have a working agreement with them.
Right.
So here's my solution, because we know it's all about the money. There's no doubt. And probably it's, let's be honest, not easy to get out of the contract that they signed. It's an obscene contract, and I think it spans 10 years, and this is the second year. You honor the contract, and there's probably also wording in there that the show has to be on WWE Network. Wouldn't you be a lot better off if WWE flat out said, hey, we understand that this show doesn't appeal to a lot of people. You know, it's not the most popular thing. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hold the show. We're going to make it as good of a show as possible, but we are not going to promote it on TV. We're not going to make our storylines on weekly television or pay-per-views a part of it. It will be the equivalent of a house show that's on steroids with all the, biggest names. You want to get Goldberg for the Saudi Arabia fans, so be it. Don't promote this stuff on weekly television. And build towards your regular pay-per-view that's upcoming in a couple of weeks that people don't even know what the name of it is. Stomping Grounds, by the way.
Okay, yeah, I was actually trying to think. That's why I stopped. I was trying to think.
Wouldn't that be a fair? Because you're still honoring the contract. You're still giving them a show. You're still having it on the network if fans want to tune in, but you're not forcing them to be subjected to.
I mean, maybe this is ignorant of me, but are the people of Saudi Arabia even up on current WWE product? Even though
Hey, I know the Prince loves the Attitude Era stuff, man.
Right. So I mean, does it really even matter? Like you said, it could just be a glorified house show, kind of like what they did for Australia.
To me, that would be 10 times better. And that's how okay, we have an agreement, we have to do this, but we're not going to make our fans, buy into what this show is. And if they wanted to do a Ziggler and Kofi thing on their own, that's fine. But we know why they're doing it, because Kevin Owens isn't going over there. That's why it's Dolph Ziggler.
Because I would assume he's supporting his friend Sammy, who's not allowed over there.
It's actually independent of that, but he has his own reasons that it just doesn't. It would not be a good idea for him to go over there.
Okay, all right. No.
Either, and let's be honest, there's probably a lot of guys that feel that way, and they're afraid that they won't technically be punished, but they'll lose their spot because KO lost his spot, and he basically just jobbed out to the New Day on Smackdown.
Aleister Black's not going over because I guess of his tattoos, so we'll see how that affects him.
Anything you wanted to touch on before we put a bow on this one, Justin? Again, NXT Takeover is a big story. Very just mediocre Raw and SmackDowns, and then of course the Super Showdown that I'm not going to watch, and maybe months down the road I'll catch it, but we're probably going to have a new champion. That kind of really upsets me because I think Lesnar's going to beat either Rollins or Kofi.
Oh, I think it's going to be Kofi. I think there's going to be a fake out.
What does that accomplish? Making more fans hate it?
Yeah, I mean, SmackDown's moving to Fox in October. They need a big name. It's going to be Lesnar. It's going to be a fake out, and Kofi Sally's going to be the one to, take the fall. That's what I'm thinking. I think Brock cashes in on Kofi.
That would be just tragic, but at this point, I'm expecting it because any chance they have to give Brock Lesnar an opportunity to ruin fans' days, they're going to do that. He ruined Money in the Bank, and I know you got to upset fans with booking every now and then, but right now it just seems like Vince is pressing all the wrong buttons. I think that would be another example. All right, Justin, once again, I want to congratulate you on going a perfect 10 of 10. I will give you a hearty pat on the back when I see you this weekend.
Barry Horowitz.
Yes, absolutely. If you want to follow us on Twitter, it is 5-Star Pod Wrestle. You can also follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Check it out. We're going to hopefully do some more live episodes upcoming throughout the course of the summer as well. For the Perfect 10, Justin Lowery, Sean Meyers signing off. We'll catch you again next week right here on the 5-Star Podcast of Wrestling.